So my name is Christopher Lloyd, and this book is called the What on Earth Wall Book. And I specialize in telling big stories, giant stories, like the whole history of the world. And I've been looking at different ways of trying to tell this story to younger people, and found that if you take the spine off a book, then the book doesn't get trapped in a shelf, and you can unfold it. And I've organized the whole history of the world here in 1,000 pictures and captions. And it goes from the beginning of time all the way to the present day on a timeline. And you can read it like a book, or you can unfold it and stick it on a wall. On the back of the book is the writing, is the normal conventional text to guide you through the history of the world. And the idea of a wall book is that young people can follow their curiosity. They don't have to start at the beginning and read to the end. They can choose any date, and then they can see what was happening in India, in America, in Europe, in Africa, what's happening in the natural world, and they can see, by following their curiosity, the connections between humanity and natural history, all the way from the beginning of time to the present day. Yes, they come as separate streams. So you can see the brown stream here is India, and the yellow one is the Middle East and North Africa. And the pink one is Europe, and the green one is the Americas. And then under here we have sub-Saharan Africa in yellow. So this is the human history side of the story. In the first part of the book, we had the natural history side of the story, and the streams are based in space, the beginning of time, the Earth 4 billion years ago, the sky, the sea, the land, and the Stone Ages, before people lived in towns and cities. So there are 12 different colored streams, 6 of them natural history, and 6 of them human history. So it covers and connects everything together. And you have the dates and the timeline on the bottom. It's an exciting way for young people and their parents and their teachers to see how everything connects together. So because there are so many pictures, you can use it with a person as young as 4 or 5, and they will notice the animals and the dinosaurs, and they'll notice the Taj Mahal perhaps, and they'll notice some of the big pictures and ask questions about them. And if they're using the book with their parents, they can have a discussion and a conversation and enjoy exploring it together. When they're a little older, 8 or 9 years old, they can then start to see some of the battles in history and start to learn about what was happening in America at the same time as India in different periods. And when they're 12, 13, 14, they might read the back and see that the whole thing connects together. And then their parents and their grandparents and their teachers will all enjoy seeing everything gathered together in one place, because as human beings we are very inclined to fragment knowledge into little pieces. And what this does is it zooms out and connects it all together. And it's something that not very many people have in their heads. So it's of great curiosity to all ages, usually purchased for younger people, but then parents and adults can find that they will explore it too and get a lot of enjoyment. Well, my own children, I have 2 daughters. They're now quite ladies, really. They're 17 and 15. But when they were younger, when my eldest daughter Matilda was 7, she got bored at school, and this was a catastrophe. She always loved reading and asking questions and everything, and then one day she didn't want to go to school anymore. And we discovered it's because she was not stimulated, it wasn't very creative, she was bored. We went to see the teacher, and the teacher said it's not a problem because she's doing fine in her tests. So we realized we needed to find another school. And whilst we were looking for another school, we educated them at home. And then we discovered, by chopping knowledge up into little pieces, like in a curriculum, and saying to the children, you're going to learn this today, and this in this hour, and this subject now, this is not an intuitive way for them to learn. It's much better to try to say, what are you interested in, and then connect it to all the things that they need to know. So we discovered that by educating in this way, we could create an environment that was very dynamic and rich, and curiosity, which is our greatest natural asset, could be tapped into to create a really good learning environment. And so I wanted to find a book to connect everything together from the beginning of time to the present day. I couldn't find it in a bookshop. Usually a history of the world is about science or it's about history, never the two together. So I wrote a big book called What on Earth Happened, which came out 4 years ago. And then when I'd written this big book, it was 180,000 words, I wanted to find a way of making it available and accessible to younger people who wouldn't read a big book of 180,000 words. So I researched into techniques of telling big stories before people read books, and I discovered giant tapestries and stained glass windows and cave paintings, all sorts of things where pictures were in a chronological order on a timeline. And I thought, could I take my whole history of the world and convert it into a book with 1,000 pictures on a timeline? Could I take the spine off a book so it wasn't trapped on a shelf but could be put on a wall? So every time you go by, your curiosity is tapped into and you spot something new. So this was the idea of a wall book. And it's terrific for me to have the opportunity to produce a special edition for India with more Indian history, and also now to have it available in Hindi as well as in English, and we're hoping to have it in 2 or 3 more languages in the next few weeks. Yeah, I've discovered that in modern schools we've kind of lost touch a little bit with these traditional learning techniques. We've become obsessed with using screens and with using interactive whiteboards and using textbooks that are mostly words, where actually when we evolved, 99% of human history was spent not in schools, but people outdoors discovering things, finding what's around the corner. Particularly boys have a psychology that is about exploration, because they have a hunting instinct in them. They don't like to stay in one place and sit there and read through words which are artificial constructs. Images and pictures are the way the memory works, and exploration and curiosity is our most natural way of learning. And by arranging pictures like this, we have in the UK a very famous big story that was commissioned by a king called William the Conqueror 1,000 years ago to celebrate his conquest of England. And he told his story by commissioning some ladies to make a giant tapestry. And the tapestry is much bigger than this courtyard. It is a giant tapestry of thousands of pictures that tells the story of the conquest of England. And it's lasted more than 1,000 years. And you can start at the end, you can start at the beginning, you can start in the middle, it doesn't matter. And all the time you can see things in context because the pictures are on a timeline. It's the same in a cathedral. If you look at the stained glass windows, you will learn about the stories of the Bible or Jesus. If you come to Europe, you can see this in many cathedrals. It's a traditional way of learning. And I think it's very easy for us in the very chaotic and technologically fast-changing world to lose touch with some of the most traditional, effective, powerful and exciting ways of learning that have been around for thousands of years. Oh, absolutely. There's no barrier in terms of age. The design, the look and feel depends a little bit on the style of the artwork and of the complexity of the book. This is less complex than the one I have in the UK, so it's really ideal for younger children in that sense. But it's a way of organizing information. It's an information architecture, like mind mapping, I suppose, in a way, whereby you can line things up and you can see what's happening. You can look at narrative through cause and effect, but visually. And narratives in books don't always have to be through abstract words, I don't think. I think a lot of books have pictures here and a caption and then lots of text. This isn't very integrated. It's exciting to see how you can integrate pictures and words together. And I think at a literary festival, it's important to remember that narrative is not just through words, that narrative is through a combination of different experiences, whether it's storytelling, a drama, whether it's the written word, whether it's pictures, whether it's movies. These are all part of storytelling and narrative. And if we only focus on words, we potentially exclude very many people. And I think this is a great shame. Yes, it is very much in print. It's published by Bloomsbury. It's now in 15 languages. It's in the bookshop here, called What on Earth Happened. Most recently it's been published in Japanese, and it's been selling very successfully, which is great, so I'm very fortunate. But I'm also passionate about seeing how this big, giant story that connects things together can be taken out to people who won't read a giant, big book. Because actually when you zoom out and you look at nature and you look at all different civilizations together, it creates a much more inclusive experience. You acknowledge and enjoy diversity, but at the same time you realize everything is connected. And when you realize everything is connected, you realize that you're dependent on all these other things in the picture. So therefore you become more interested, curious, tolerant, and respectful of other cultures and also of nature. I think this is the value of stepping out, zooming out, and seeing the big picture. Well, you see, history is a very it depends how you interpret history. I studied history at Cambridge University. Then I went to become a journalist, and I became a science correspondent. So I had a mixed background in that sense of storytelling. But actually, history is about the past. And if you go before human beings, it's not really called history, it's called science, because it's about evolution, it's about nature, it's about plate tectonics, it's about, you know, about all the sort of different natural history episodes usually are classified as science. And it's only when you get human culture that people tend to think of it as history. But to my mind, big history is about science and history and religion and art and music and politics and technology and physics, all the subjects together, because of course everything that's ever happened is in the past. Everything that's written about is to do with things in the past. Everything really is big history.